Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're stepping back in time to a single, crucial day in Vietnamese history. We're going to see the liberation of Da Nang not from a history book, but through the eyes of a tank soldier who was right there on the ground in the heart of the city.
This quote, wow. It just says it all, doesn't it? It's from a woman in Da Nang on March 30th, 1975. She's looking at a North Vietnamese soldier, and in that one moment, the reality of the man standing in front of her just completely shatters years and years of propaganda. That's the story we're diving into today. What happens when myth crashes head-on with reality, right there on the city streets?
All right, so how did this incredible day begin? Well, it wasn't with a huge battle. As the sun came up, our narrator and his tank unit got their orders for the morning.
As their tanks started rolling out, this weird, unseasonal rain began to fall. But this wasn't some kind of victory parade, not at all. It was a very deliberate show of force. The idea was to do two things at once: show any enemy fighters still hiding that they meant business, and, just as important, project a sense of calm and order for the people of a city that had just been completely turned upside down.
And you can really see the change right here. I mean, just look at the difference a few hours made. The day before, Da Nang was a ghost town, totally silent, filled with uncertainty. But by the morning of the 30th, people were coming back out. The city was cautiously, carefully coming back to life.
So, the tanks are rumbling through these newly crowded streets, and the soldiers inside? Well, they're looking out and seeing a little bit of everything. A real mix of human reactions.
Yeah, this was definitely not a simple hero's welcome. You had some people waving, for sure, but for every person waving, there was someone else just watching, with guarded eyes full of doubt. You have to understand, this was a city holding its breath, trying to figure out what was happening.
And to really get why they were so suspicious, you've got to understand what Da Nang was. It wasn't just any city. For generations, it was a fortress, a symbol of French and then South Vietnamese power. The people there had spent their entire lives being told the North Vietnamese were the enemy. So these soldiers weren't just liberators. To many, they were total strangers from another world.
After the parade, the narrator's unit, just 6 tanks, parks right in the city center. And, well, you can't exactly ignore 6 tanks, right? They immediately became this focal point, turning these young soldiers into accidental ambassadors, or as we're calling them, the reluctant propagandists.
And almost instantly, they're just swamped. The people of Da Nang, after decades of being cut off and fed anti-communist propaganda, just flooded them with questions. They wanted to know everything. What's life really like in the North? What's this cooperative thing we've heard about? Are you guys really communists?
And this is where it gets really fascinating. The most simple, everyday things started breaking down these huge propaganda walls. The soldiers, they just needed to eat, right? So they set up a small kitchen on the pavement. And as they're cooking and eating rice, a crowd gathers, whispering in amazement. Hey, they eat rice, just like we do.
And then, a teenager pushes his way through the crowd and asks the big one. The question that gets to the heart of one of the most wild rumors they'd all heard, that North Vietnamese tank crews were literally chained to their seats so they couldn't run away in a fight. Now, the narrator knew that just saying no wasn't going to cut it. Words were cheap at this point. To really kill this rumor, he had to show them, not just tell them. So, in a split second, he decides to break the rules. He waves the boy over, helps him climb up onto this huge machine, and throws open the hatches.
The teenager peeks inside, looks around, and then turns back to this huge crowd and just shouts it. His voice just rings out, that one honest shout from one of their own. Man, it did more to tear down the propaganda than any official speech ever could. A pure, unscripted moment of truth.
But, being a part of a historic day isn't all about these big, dramatic public moments. There was also the unglamorous, gritty, and sometimes dangerous reality of being a soldier in a city that was still finding its footing.
Yeah, the history books don't always tell you about this stuff. Their throats were raw from answering questions for hours straight. They had to deal with the fact that there were hardly any public toilets. And sleeping out in the open by the river, it meant waking up with their necks covered in mosquito bites. Just a small, constant misery.
And the danger was very real. That evening, as they were sitting in the dark, a motorcycle zipped past and something got thrown at them. It was a tear gas grenade. Nobody was seriously hurt, but it was this jarring, sharp reminder that even with all the curious crowds, danger was still lurking in the shadows of the city.
So you take all of these little moments, the shouted questions, the shared rice, the open tank hatch, the endless conversations. What does it all add up to? Well, it started to build something new.
The narrator is absolutely convinced that their unplanned job as reluctant propagandists was essential. Just by being themselves, by answering questions honestly and showing people their reality, they did more to calm down that tense city and win over trust than any official order ever could have.
And you could literally feel the city's vibe shift. Over the course of that one day, the soldiers could see it in people's faces. The suspicious stares started to soften. They turned into friendly, trusting eyes. And the narrator adds, maybe with a bit of a soldier's charm, there were even a few passionate gazes from the local young women.
And this leaves us with a final thought. When the narrator visits Da Nang, almost 50 years later, it's this modern, bustling city. And it makes you wonder, how many of these small, personal, human moments are layered just beneath the concrete and glass of our cities? It's a powerful reminder that history isn't just about grand battles and official dates. It's about the countless, quiet interactions that truly change the world, one conversation at a time.